Hello, dear friends, my lovely audiences. Welcome to the East West Show. Jack Chow on the East West with the G&E TV. Aside from DACA, we have lots of other issues to worry about, especially when you complain about things around you, especially dollars. When you look at your dollar, it looks exactly the same as $1 as before, as probably 50, 60, or even 70 years ago. But the value, look into the value of a dollar, does it still hold the same value as before? If not, what had happened? Looking around the housing prices in Southern California, for example, a median house costs in a very average city costs about 500 to 600 or $700,000. I mean, just a median house, maybe more, I don't know, depending on different areas, different cities. I'm talking about the average or even average below. You're talking about 500, 600, or even 700 or above something $1,000. So what's wrong? And if you're looking around something else, as cars, such as your day-to-day expenses. And the other day I mentioned about shrinking of the quality of the size of your merchandise itself. That's one side. And on the other side, you pay more dollars for the already shrunk stuff you buy. So what's wrong? Okay, now I also mentioned the other day that when I first came, that was 34 years ago, a hamburger, McDonald's hamburger, the combo was about this size. I was a little than back then, of course, and I can cut it in the middle, and half for lunch and half for dinner, and I lived quite so well on that. So today you try it. The combo will be this big. So now, shrinking on one side, devaluation on the other, what happened? Today I have my friend, my close friend, Dr. Chris Nibby. I increased him, elevated him. Mr. Chris Nibby, director of Hollywood, of Monarchs Corporation of Hollywood, California. Because of the fact that he goes to archives and libraries so often, he, over the years, grew himself into a historian kind or archivist kind of researcher. That's why I have invited him here to share his views about the problem that I so far described. So, sir, welcome to the show.
谢谢你.
All right, good. Do you like my lead line?
I do.
Okay, go ahead. So now, question number one. To put it in simple language, are we or am I right that we are facing two problems? Number one, we should see the shrinking of merchandises, services, whatsoever. And on the other hand, we see the devaluation of our dollar. So as two combined, we are caught in surprises how different life is from now and back then. Am I right?
Yes, you're right. Because for almost a century, Western economy has been based on debt-driven, privately owned, and manipulated monetary system.
All right.
The Western monetary system is privately made and privately owned, with the entire international payment system being controlled by the Federal Reserve System, simply known as Fed, which is totally privately owned, and the Bank of International Settlement in Switzerland, also called the Central Bank of the Central Banks, they together control and influence the money market, which is in dollars.
That's not new.
No.
That's not new. That's been there, forever.
But the system doesn't work.
All right, let's see how that doesn't work.
You see, in 1971, Richard Nixon decoupled the dollar from gold standard, and instead of, at that time, money was called a commodity because it was based on gold. Now it's a fiat money because it's based on dreams.
Money is money.
It's
money
on paper.
Is a word.
Yes.
Is a word.
Right.
I agree. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And what happened then?
What had happened
all right,
then?
Good.
You see, all international trade transfers are made through Wall Street, where Goldman Sachs plays a major role in this Anglo-Zionist ruled system. It's not for the advantage of the people, because you see, the people, we forget, we have the luxury to research and go into the subject matters. As a film director, this is not exactly my business, but I'm interested in these things.
Okay,
so
sure.
normal people don't have time to go into this and worry about this. They have so many problems, and all they have to keep a job. They have to drive to work for 2 hours. We have the luxury to see these things and discuss them, and we see the deception which has been created to the masses.
Deception maybe is too big a word, or confusion be better?
No, because you see, it is being deception, because if you are going to be retired, your dreams of a peaceful retirement with what you had saved is no longer valid. I read the other day that...
I agree with you in that regard.
So, you know, millions of people are being cheated out of their retirement dreams. And as you know, politicians always promise
I
they will
understand
do it
what
better.
you say. The other day I had my friend Stephen Hunley here doing the show, talking about if a guy started at the age of 18 before entering college, put aside some money, like say as little as $75, $75 a month, and it goes on and on and on, with a bank interest of 5% to be conservative, right, for that investment.
Right now they don't pay nothing. They don't pay any interest.
Anyway, that's what we were discussing.
Yeah.
And by the age of retirement, this guy, this person, this boy or girl, whoever, would have accumulated $1 million.
Yes.
All right. My question immediately asked him was is that 1 million equals to the million now? Of course, that question wasn't answered. So now you're touching the point.
It's
say
not equal at
the
all.
$1 million is not equal to the $1 million that he had dreamed for.
When he started, right.
I
It's
see.
maybe half.
Or maybe
or
half,
less.
or
Maybe
less.
I think it's even less.
Okay.
It's a tragedy.
All right. Take gold, for example. Even gold, for example. I don't know who devaluates or who increases. Gold is 1,200 something plus minus.
Used to be 35.
And the time I came here, I was 361. I remembered exactly, precisely, because I had a lock, the little lock for babies, made for my son at 361. And now the lock itself made its own value.
Right.
If I sold it.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, so go ahead.
So you see, this, because of the international transfers of money of any kind of payments and so on, are all routed through Wall Street. This is the reason why America can sanction countries who do not behave according to Washington's hegemonic dictates. This is actually illegal and would not stand up before any international court if challenged.
I really recommend that you be selective on your words. It's not a dictatorship. It's a world order we try to conquer. It's a world order we try to maintain. You may take that as dictatorship. I don't. All right, so I respect the right, your right to speak up freely, but I would have to recommend that we want to amicably
but you see, we're stating facts.
Yes.
This is actually illegal, and if challenged, but nobody is challenging it because the international courts are also controlled by the Anglo-Zionist lobby. There's no chance that the U.S. will be called to account for these illegal economic practices around the world, at least not as long as a Western currency is based on the dollar monetary system.
All right. I started this discussion by asking you, looking for an answer, why on one hand we see the shrinking, on the other hand we see a devaluation of dollar itself, right? So you're saying the monetary system is wrong. That is the answer.
It's rigged.
Am I right?
Yes, it's rigged.
It's
rigged in the favor of America. Therefore...
No. Hold it. Hold right there. If it is in favor of America, I'm an American.
Yes.
Why I'm not favored? Why I don't see the benefit?
Oh, you see the benefit?
That's a good question. That's a good question, right?
You do see the benefit.
What do I see?
Because America has still maintained, despite of being in debt for trillions and trillions of dollars, maintains a relatively nice living standard. Compared to other countries which are controlled by the rigged dollar monetary system, America is profiting from it.
As a country, you always put your country first. Is there anything wrong with it? Like Donald Trump says, America first.
That's good for him, but you know, I'm talking about the world. And China and Russia are now moving towards a complete independence from the Western economy.
They want to use their currencies as the international exchange currency.
Yes,
am I right?
They are trying to break the dollar monopoly prudently and gradually.
Let them do it.
Yeah, but that's
Let them do it. We do still our own way. Let them do it.
1 second. That's very interesting, because this is going to be not very good for America, because if that happens, it will be a major blow to the U.S. economy.
Okay, we'll get into that. I first want to establish a philosophy. The philosophy to be established is that as a nation, number one, you always want to make yourself the first, right? So making America first, that's never wrong. Donald Trump, even though I'm not a supporter, he is right on that slogan that we are making American first.
Okay, he has yet to deliver. Let's stick here with China.
And China and Russia, each as their own nation, and they want to do the same thing. Let's make China first. Let's make Russia first. And then nobody is wrong by doing that.
No, I don't agree with you. China and Russia are the world's largest gold producer because they almost produce over a quarter of annual gold production, which
more than
is
3,000 tons.
3,100 tons.
Right.
Yes.
Touching gold, that's a whole different big area where this problem arises from. Let's take a very short moment now. When we come back, we'll continue from their exact point. With me today is my friend Chris Nibby, founder and CEO of Monarax Corporation of Hollywood.
Actually, a movie production company.
A movie production company. He is a movie director. Why is he into the money business? Only because he goes in and out of the archives and the libraries so much that made himself a researcher. He has been researching this subject for quite some time, I know of. And today is just a little sharing between him and me. Stay with us. We'll be right back, please. Hello, my dear friends, my lovely audience, ladies and gentlemen, my dear fellow Americans. Welcome back to the discussion about money. Money, 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 money. No money, no honey. No money, no nothing. All right, not only honey. So that's a principle that is so true, so correct. Nobody can ever challenge, and I challenge anybody who can challenge me on that issue. Welcome back to the discussion. With my good friend Chris Neby, we're talking about money. To be more precise, we're talking about a monetary system internationally, right? The international monetary system, are we still benefit ourselves by using dollar as the international transaction only, or do we have other options to still benefit America? And we have rising China, we have Russia, we have India, we have other nations trying to get the pie. So is the pie still there? So on and so forth. And with me, my good friend Chris Neby, a movie director of Hollywood, and he is also a researcher himself. So welcome back to the show. Back to the gold point, right? We were talking about gold total output.
That's not total output. That's what China and Russia put out. So that
China
makes them
and Russia, two of them,
gold producers,
doing more than 3,000 metric tons per year on an annual basis.
Right.
All right.
So
from there,
you see, China and Russia now have started to trade oil and gas no longer in US dollars, but in their local currencies or gold. The oil future contracts are in yuan. About the oil, it's a base backed with gold. Every producer or trader can now deal in oil and gas in no dollar denominated contracts.
Let me insert one question.
If they want to do that.
Let me insert one question, please, if I may, right? Talking about even if they use gold as the backup, but the gold price is still symbolized by dollars.
That's it.
Right. Gold is still quantified by dollars. And then in the end of the day, you're still going to dollars.
That's why the system is rigged, and they're going to break it. I will tell you why.
Okay.
One of the key reasons the dollar has maintained its hegemonic position around the globe is according to an unwritten agreement between the US and Saudi Arabia, which in the early 1970s, Saudi Arabia is the head of OPEC, the oil producing cartel. They made sure, Saudi Arabia was to make sure that oil and gas are traded only in US dollars. In return, Saudi Arabia received US protection with huge military bases from which the US is directing and carrying out its wars in the Middle East. So, those who want to know, Saddam Hussein, for example, announced in 2000 that Iraq would no longer use the US dollar to sell oil on the global market. It would adopt the euro. We know what happened to him. See, oil, money, assassination, and geopolitical conquest are all very close together, and it's always Saudi Arabia and America. And the interesting thing is that Saudi Arabia at the same time finances terrorists, which America is fighting.
Any hardcore evidence?
Oh yes, wait.
All right.
Muammar Gaddafi suffered the same fate as Saddam Hussein. Why? Because he was trying to establish a unified African currency, to trade backed by gold to buy and sell African oil. Oil-rich Sudan continues to be victimized by civil war supported by the CIA. The recent disagreements with Qatar and Saudi Arabia, its neighbors, are also based on the same promise. Iran suddenly faced accusations of nuclear weapons when in 2007 it announced the Tehran oil bourse, where all oil and gas could be traded in other currencies than the US dollar. So, this US imposed totally illegal agreement in association with Saudi Arabia allowed the US Treasury to print dollars indiscriminately because the rest of the world needed dollars to pay oil and gas, to pay for oil and gas. So this is a very unhappy situation.
So what? Once again, I want to apply my principle. For a nation as United States, we insisted on everybody using US dollar as exchange currency. We were nothing wrong. Of course, I respect your right to speak freely. I might not necessarily agree with it, right? So you may say yours, I may disagree. So the thing is that we may not, of course, if I were the Fed, I would the Federal Reserve, I would do the same thing because I want to make a rule. Everybody follow my rule because United States first.
Yeah, but isn't it interesting that anybody like Saddam Hussein, Muammar Gaddafi, Qatar, Iran, who wants to get out of that strangulation, because it's a strangulation. It's not by free will. It's by force.
All right.
Gets hurt or killed. In the case of these two dictators, they got killed.
Those are. Everybody has their own single reason.
No.
Everybody has their own single story. People say that.
As humans, and as human, we all talk about humanitarian rights. So we have to think of a global basis because you cannot impoverish some people and benefit from it. It's not right. And in the long run, it will not work. It has never worked. Therefore, you see, up to 10 years ago, most international trading contracts were denominated in US dollars, regardless of whether the US was involved or not. This was also an unwritten rule, WTO, World Trade Organization, imposed rule. This is no longer the case. It's slowly being watered down. Therefore, detaching the dollar-based monetary system and instead trading yuan, rubles or gold or any other local currency for that matter will make any kind of financial sanctions imposed on so-called rogue regimes like Russia, Iran or North Korea completely ineffective.
All right. Okay, let's do this.
One more thing. I want to finish.
Okay, go ahead.
Now, oil-rich Venezuela is going to implement a new system of international payment and will create a basket of currencies to free itself from the US dollar because Venezuela sits on the world largest, on one of the world largest oil reserves. So you see, there is motion there in this respect, and America does not like that.
All right.
But there is, at this point, nothing they can do anymore.
But you also, when you talk about the problems, you also raise a very good point. The point being, of course, and I foreshadow it because we are coming back to talk about it. The foreshadow being that you're raising the problem. You're talking about the problem one by one. In the meantime, you raise one important issue to respect the dollarization authority has a positive function when you want to sanction any wrongdoings. It works. So for the benefit of the world's sake, why would we keep it? Why would they keep on doing it? So my dear friends, with me today, we're touching on a subject that is never my area of expertise. I'm the kind of person, if you mention a word with a name, I mean money, not marijuana, I get dizzy right away. right? So a marriage and then etc. Whatever, anything with an M, I started with the headache. Yet we're going to talk about it because it is something that you really have to go along with day by day, right? With me today is my good friend Chris Nebe. He is a film director of Monterey Hollywood. He himself built a monument taller than himself with a series of 18 outstanding films, some of which are award-winning and double award-winning, and for this many years. And all these many years going into archives and the libraries so often get himself the opportunity to touch this subject. The subject being the monetary system, according to him, is wrong and needs some change. Let's stay for a moment. When we come back, we will continue talking about from the point where we left. Stay with us, please. Hello, my dear friends. Welcome back to the show. My dear fellow Americans, this is a very important discussion about our money. With me, my friend Chris Nebe, Hollywood film director, all of a sudden getting into monetary discussion is not all of a sudden. It is the years, all those years, going in and out archives, in and out libraries, got him the equipment of talking about it. He went so deep, he went back all the way to 1971 when dollar and gold were detached from that moment on until what it is right now. So we go back to where we left off. You mentioned about the fact that it has lots of evidence, that you had lots of evidence saying that well, this dollar thing is untouchable. Anybody who touches it gets into trouble, something like that, right? And that's what you wanted to say, or you did not say the exact wording. My point is that to respect and to maintain the dollar supremacy has a lot of benefit. It may have more benefit than disadvantage, because you can use that to sanction any wrongdoings internationally.
I'm sorry, I
Take
disagree.
Korea, for example. Yeah, go ahead.
I disagree with you.
You may.
I disagree with you. It has benefits for America because America is basically enriching itself on the back of the poor to the rest of the world, especially the developing countries. If we now start to see non-dollar international trade contracts, the Western dollar-based monetary system will gradually and smoothly be dethroned and dismantled. Demand for the dollar will rapidly decline, and so will the dollar's significance as a world reserve currency. This will be the final blow to U.S. world domination and expedite the collapse of the U.S. economy. This is what the
let me just please allow me to
this is
insert.
unfortunately a
Because
very sad reality.
I'm flashing here.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm flashing here. If that does happen,
Yes.
suppose if that did happen,
Yes.
would that benefit China because the U.S. owes a lot of debt in dollars?
No, it would. You know, they are all indebted. But what it would,
Or will it benefit the United States?
it will benefit. It will benefit nobody as far as their debts is concerned, because they're all.
I mean,
too
the
indebted.
dollars. I mean, the dollar. If dollars is a de-dollarized,
Doesn't matter. Yeah, okay, the debts go down too, because if the dollar goes down, the debt value goes down. But that's not the question. The question is, you see, that why would we have the dollar the dominance of the dollar gives the U.S. the gun, another gun. They have already plenty of guns, but this is another gun which is very important, controlling other countries. Because if I am doing business with you only because you have a very solid economy and you are having very solid product to sell, which I need to buy from you, and I'm not for, and you selling me the merchandise in your currency, and I buy in your currency or pay in my currency, that's any kind of domination of monopoly is always bad for the free development of trade.
Well, to one-on-one trade, though, they may decide using anything.
I'm sorry?
Well, one-on-one trade between two countries, right? For example, Poland and Russia.
Yes.
Right? They want either Polish B and also Russia rubles,
yeah.
right? So they can do that. And between, for example, United States and Israel, they want to go dollar, so dollars like that. But if you want to start doing trade with a third country, you do the same negotiation to pick up another currency as you wish.
If you trade with OPEC companies in oil and gas, you have to deal in dollars.
I don't think so.
Oh, yes,
How about Russia? Russia dealing with South Africa.
Russia has its own oil. But Germany, for example.
And how about China?
They change into dollars.
Into dollars? They did change into dollars?
That's it, yes. That's because.
And then, the only reasonable remain. The one remains as a fact. Let's follow the trend. What's wrong with that?
But the trend is going in the wrong direction. Don't you see that by doing so, by holding a monopoly, you, America, are controlling the world?
Well, we are. We want to do that.
Yeah, but with who gives you the right? Who are you to even have that ambition, my friend?
No. I'm talking yesterday. It was exactly yesterday and the day before. I discussed with my friend Alan Diamanti and also my friend Joel Fox of Pepperdine University.
Yes.
And we were talking about the U.S. Leadership in the world position, right?
Yes.
Because we have never, anyway, we have never taken that risk at the moment when we needed to control world, to do for world peace. And that calls for money, and we want our money to do the same thing. So maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm taking too much American ego. You can still correct me. I'm just applying my freedom of expression to express myself.
Fine with me. But you see, any kind of monopoly is no good. And with a monopoly, America is guiding its geopolitical ambitions. With, on one hand, the gun, and the other hand, the money. This is a combination which doesn't work. And it has been the fall of every empire since the beginning of history. Think about the Roman Empire. Think about the Persian Empire, the Egyptians, the Greeks. British Empire. 100 years ago, Britain controlled the world. What is Britain today? Nothing. A little island living in past glory and worrying about whether Prince Harry is going to marry an American actress or not.
Give him birth to another baby.
So you see, empires come and go. Interesting enough, China is the only country in the world, I don't know if you have ever thought about that, which has remained in its boundaries. Other countries have taken land from China.
That I do agree.
India has taken, Russia has taken. China has not taken nothing from nobody and is still...
And on the other hand, everybody took land from China.
That's what I'm saying.
Including Russia.
And
including India.
So, you see, China is the only country in history which has retained itself and has been a continuous nation since 4,000 years. So they must be doing something right. And why? Because they're following the philosophy of don't do to others what you don't want them to do to you.
All right.
And aside of the fact that the Chinese philosophy basically is create win-win situations in peace and harmony. This is a thought pattern which you certainly do not find in American geopolitics.
Okay.
So here's your answer. Because the Americans
I understand.
have a complete different attitude, because this country here was created by the gun, at the barrel of the gun. And
that is exactly written since the founding of the United States.
Yeah.
Look at our nation, our symbol, right? We have one hand with air, we have one hand with olive.
Yeah.
Right? So, okay, here, in between, you choose,
yeah.
right? Something like that. We showed exactly our ambition of monopolizing, of maintaining world peace, do it in a peaceful way, something like that.
But
okay,
you
now,
don't do it in a peaceful way.
Now, of course. And when wars are necessary, of course, there are unnecessary wars. That's out of question. We'll talk about those on another day. For example, right now, when North Korea is getting out of hand, the hope and only hope is America. Why people think of America is America, because America has a reputation. Why do we have a reputation? Because we earned it.
The wrong way, I'm sorry.
The wrong way, okay. Maybe, quote unquote, your term, the wrong way, but we earned it. That's it.
But the wrong way. By the way, Korea is as I told you in our last interview, there's nothing going to happen. This is all smoke and mirrors.
Not necessarily. And you know what? What Kim Jong-un said as of last night, all right? And he says he would bring United States into total darkness.
Good for him. It's not going to happen because he can't do it. And secondly, if you attack him, China will not go for this. And secondly, you will destroy the Korean Peninsula. South Korea will be destroyed. There is no chance. This has been going, this big mouse.
No, come on. Remember last time we talked about assassination?
Yes.
Use that.
That's okay. I agree with you. Use that, because I'm sure that the 26 million North Koreans would eventually be happy to join the South, because they will enjoy a better life than they have now. On the other hand, they are of course also indoctrinated, and but I can tell you, when East and West Germany came together, the East Germans were also indoctrinated, but the majority of them welcomed the unification and prospered in the unification, and there's only a tiny fraction which regrets.
Yeah, there's always a tiny fraction.
That's it.
Take North Korea, for example. Right. There might be people who still enjoy their brainwashed life, right?
Yes.
Who will still enjoy their leader as Kim Jong-un.
You realize that, right? Also America did in the Korean War huge damage to North Korea, tremendous damage, and that there is a basis for this attitude. Of course, Kim Jong-un, his grandfather, his father, do this in order to keep the country, continue to be the rulers of the country. That's one thing. But North Korea, there are two things. There is this young man who is obviously nuts, and yes, assassinate him. And then there are 26 million Koreans who, like everybody else in the world, wants to live in peace and harmony.
Let them unite.
That's it.
and then we, U.S., send troops over there to protect them until they establish themselves, until the life restored and everything is okay. And we are the ones who do that, and people will trust us that they will do
My
that.
good friend, already there are plenty of troops in South Korea. You don't need to send more to the Korean Peninsula.
Okay, give them something to do.
Because people also don't like to exchange one lord for another lord.
You are right.
And the other lord
The fact that we have that many troops in South Korea is exactly that we are waiting for the day to come. Now the day has almost come. Let's do it.
No, you don't do war.
No. I'm not talking about war. I'm talking about something in there to handpick somebody and then to restore the society, to push for a reunification.
Okay, we went away from the money point here.
We did.
I think, you see, this new Eastern economy based in China and Russia, which they call, and which I agree, the economy of peace, will offer the world an alternative to the dollar, monopoly in the world. And this is also one of the objectives of China's Belt and Road Initiative.
Yeah, you and I, we're talking about it.
Right.
I find myself in support of that Belt and Road.
Right. So you see, if you follow and just follow the money, and you will always see oil and gas and America and the dollar. In the last few days, if you follow the money in the news, you will note the following. In his forthcoming visit to Washington, Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu will try to force the Jewish...
All right, that obviously leads to another block of discussion.
No.
You want me to take a break now, or you want to...
if you want to take a break, we'll do it afterwards.
And we'll go, when we come back, it's obviously we're going to see what's going to happen next few weeks, right? That's very important. And of course, to give you a pill of hope, all right? I'm not really arguing with you, and I do it as a show host. I have to be responsible to my audiences from the left aisle or the right aisle, all right? So let them a chance to talk, to speak. So stay with us. We'll be right back, please. Hello, my dear friends, my lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show. My dear fellow Americans, welcome back to the discussion about money. Money. While talking money, we kept ourselves drifting away from from money to something else. However, that something else was still money related. Anyway, with me on the talk about dollar-centered monetary system is my good friend Chris Nebe, who I respect a lot and who I trust a lot. I seldom argue with him because he is stronger, he's more argumentative than I am. I never win, so that I back up all the time. But this one, in terms to dollar reputation, I really have to fight because dollar is the only currency that I have in my pocket. And the United States is my only country now. So now I have to defend. Yet, there is always an option. If somebody offers an option to the rest of the world, see, hey, here's the Jack Xiao currency, for example. It's a Jack dollar, something like. If things are proven to be true that the Jack dollar works, well, it's not bad for an option. Am I right?
Yeah.
So that's why I came down a little bit to share the fact with you. So, I mean, if there is an option, well, the option could be, well, they may compete. Let them compete, right? So
right,
nothing
Jack.
wrong.
You see, but if you follow the money, if you follow the dollar in connection with oil and gas, that's what we are talking about.
Oil, gas, and gold.
And oil and gas and eventually gold.
Yes.
So you see, there are 3 instances in the last few days currently which are pointing again, tell you that I am right. That this, in his forthcoming visit to Washington, Israel's Prime Netanyahu will try to force the US government to reconsider the nuclear deal with Iran. Why?
Which means?
Why? Because a nuclear-armed, oil-rich Iran is a constant target of Israel's aggression. So, in Syria, major oil fields are in the north and east of Mayadin. There is the Omar oil field, which is the biggest one in Syria. The US wants these areas under its control to finance with the oil the Kurdish and Arab terrorist proxies. Because you know they are financing terrorists against Assad.
The US is not never directly involved.
No,
Of course
very
we're
cleverly,
not.
very cleverly behind the back. The US supports these forces trying to annex the oil-rich area. On the other hand, Syria desperately needs the income from these oil fields to rebuild its devastated country. I do not think that Syria allies, Russia, will accept the annexation of Syria's oil fields by terrorists, and I'm very interested how this will develop further. Now, the third and last issue I'd like to mention in today's and yesterday's news is the Rohingya, the genocide of the Rohingya in Myanmar, formerly called Burma.
Burma, yeah.
Is directly, believe it or not, linked to big oil, because massive deposits of oil in the Rohingya area are now available for the highest bidder. It is big. It's a big oil bonanza because you know.
It's of China's interest too.
Very much, but yes, but Shell, Chevron, and other major oil companies want to exploit Myanmar's natural resources, while the Chinese, who dominated Myanmar's economy for many years, are being slowly pushed out. Indeed, the rivalry over Myanmar's natural resources and the need to undermine China's superpower status in Asia has brought
China will never take it easy on that because there's a livelihood.
I know. But you see, the rivalry over China's, or let's see, the rivalry over Myanmar's natural resources and the need to undermine China's superpower status in Asia has brought the Anglo-Zionist lobby back in force, and the Rohingya are paying the price.
All right, nothing wrong with that.
I'm sorry?
Nothing wrong with that because when money has to be paid, money has to be paid.
Nothing wrong with the genocide of the Rohingya. That's a Holocaust.
Here's what my take is, right? Okay, now, everybody is entitled to fight for its benefit. And every country is entitled to fight for its benefit, right? Let it be China, let it be Russia, let it be the United States. Okay.
We are talking about genocide.
No. We're using a wrong word, and maybe competition is a better word for fight, right? So it's a competition, international benefit competition for benefit in terms of oil.
Are you calling genocide a competition?
No, who genocide who? You're talking about the genocide in the past or genocide now?
The genocide of the Rohingya.
Yeah, that's
Myanmar.
That's in the past.
No, they're being killed right now.
This present time.
Yes, they're fleeing in boats.
I haven't seen the news for
it's terrible.
that part.
And this is directly again connected with oil and gas. So if you follow the money, you will always find two things. Number one, you will find America's interest behind it in various ways, sometimes very well disguised. And in the other thing, you will find the wish to control and subjugate countries or kill, like I said before. Saddam Hussein wanted to sell his oil in euro. He was killed. Muammar Gaddafi wanted to create a unified African currency to
get away from dollars.
Is dead. Sudan is suffering from a civil war. They couldn't quite get a grip on it, and they split the country. And the story goes, Qatar. The story goes on and on and on. And you know, why don't we go? Why don't we stop this imperialistic, neo-colonialistic attitude of America, and we see facts to facts. And the facts are not in favor of America, and as time has gone, everything has its time, and then they disappear. And all I'm saying is that the dollar situation is unacceptable. And everybody will agree with me.
At least one thing for sure, at present, dollar authority so far has the function of sanctioning wrongdoings. I still want to stick to that, and I hope that something will happen, right? And at this time, on the last sanction that was agreed upon, even China voted yes to North Korea, saying that the 95% of their cotton export is now dead. Is not dead.
So tell me
without money, how can they do nuclears?
So tell me, who is suffering of this? The scientist who is developing the atomic bomb?
No.
Or the people? It's always the people.
They have no money to go further on.
My good friend, all these sanctions are wonderful on paper, but who is suffering, I'm asking you? It's not the leaders. The leaders have enough food on their table, and they have nice cars and a good life. It's the people. It's the people who suffer. It's always the people, the weakest element in society.
That is a good logic.
Is the people, the poor people. Like here in America, where people today, because of this false economy,
I know.
people using 2 jobs, 3 jobs to get by.
That is a good logic, but in practice, you call it what? The cost of war. The cost of doing justice. For example, if you wage a war, even a justified war, there is always casualties.
But that's not the answer, Jack. We're humans. We're talking about humanitarian rights. There is 2 things we always forget, that with these kind of sanctions, people are being punished who have nothing really to do with it.
I know.
Because the grandmother in North Korea, who is cooking her rice every day,
is a pathetic matter.
Has nothing to do with nuclear ambitions. And the job seeker or the worker here who is being exploited and needs 2 or 3 jobs to pay for the family,
I know.
has nothing to do with ambition of wealth, or all they want to do is raise their family.
Yeah, I know that.
And the
but
ambition of leadership has to
once
cater
again,
to.
I have to say, unfortunately, that's the cost of doing justice.
Yeah, but it's not justice. It's not justice.
It is justice.
Where is the justice?
To stop them, stop their nuclear projects, right? Because that kills people.
So far, they haven't killed nobody, and also there's nothing going to happen.
Anyway, My dear friends, today we are doing a very wonderful discussion with my friend Chris Nibby, director of Hollywood Monorex Hollywood Corporation, and founder and CEO. He himself has a credit, a monument higher, taller than himself, with a big series of 18 films are all combined. And he going in and out archives and libraries, and he did the research of monitoring issue. The monetary issue is really an issue. I may agree to some of his points. I may not agree to some of his points. But as a discussion, we each apply to the freedom of expression.
That's right?
How about that? All right, my dear friend, my dear audiences, thank you for watching. And to my good friend, Chris, thank you for sharing.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Thank
thank you.